Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Butternomics. I am your host, Brandon Butler, founder and CEO of Butter ATL, and we have a very, very special guest today in the studio with us, the one, the only, Miss Angela Watts. Angela, how are you
I
doing?
am doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good, good. Thank you for coming out. Now, you're doing a lot of stuff out here in these streets. Now, we've been seeing you out here making some
Are you
moves.
watching?
Oh, we watching. Oh, you best believe I'm watching. You know what I'm saying? The
Okay.
moves you've been making.
Yeah.
And you've built this thing, Atlanta Fashion Week, into really what's kind of becoming a new, cultural staple for the city. And we'll get into that. But real quick though, you started in tech.
Yes, I did.
How did you end up going from tech to running, the biggest fashion week in Atlanta?
Um, well, when I was in college, I went to Fort Valley State, and my initial degree that I signed up for, obviously you have to identify that, right? Once you get into school, was to become a computer information technology specialist. Um, Eventually, I left Fort Valley and transferred to Georgia State due to personal reasons and some situations that happened on campus, unfortunately, for a friend of ours, right, of mine. And I ended up getting a job at this place called TRX. Initially, when I got that position, which I knew it had something to do with tech, it was more customer service, but it was customer service where I would help the internal staff if something went wrong with their laptop or with their computer. Very simple fixes with the program. Eventually, I realized that they had a server team, and I am a very ambitious person. So I decided that, hey, I am going to go. I start having conversations with the different staff members that were on the server team at that time, and inquiring about how can I become part of this team, researching myself, learning that, oh my God, you can make X amount of dollars per year. I wanted to get into that space. So I started doing my education, building a rapport with the manager and the team over there. And eventually they knew my interests and allowed me to get in that position. And once I got in that position, I worked that position for 7 years, which was a Microsoft certified system engineer. And then eventually I got tired of that because I was like, I like to go out, I like to have fun, I like to socialize and engage. And of course, if you're out and you're on the server team and something happens with one of the servers, guess what? You're going to have
You
to,
got to go
you
in.
got to go in. And
Yeah.
I kept getting called in. And I was like, okay, this is not what I want. And eventually I started doing additional research for other industries. And that's how I transitioned into um, public relations marketing.
Okay. So were you, so now you're doing Atlanta Fashion Week. Now I got to ask, like, were you like the stylish tech person at work? Like, were you coming in there stepping on their throats back in the
Of
day? Or
course,
so it was always in you.
it was always in me.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how did Atlanta Fashion Week start?
Well, so I got laid off in 2006, but I would tell you in 2005, I started learning more about New York Fashion Week.
Okay.
And that just totally drew in my interest. And I was like, okay, hey, Atlanta doesn't have a fashion week. How can I bring that here? So, when I got laid off, well, let me step back. Whenever in 2000, obviously in 2003 to 2000, no, maybe 2002 to 2005, right before I got laid off, I was doing promotions. We
Okay.
started the first, I worked with this guy named Darius, DJ E-Class, and a few others, and we started the first day party in the city of Atlanta. So
Oh,
that allowed me to dip my toe into the whole promotion PR space.
so all these grass walls, your fault then. That's what you're telling me.
No,
All these, all these
we
lamb
didn't have
chops.
we did not have grass walls back then, right?
Yeah, no,
But
you didn't.
you
No,
know,
there were no grass walls. I can confirm.
right. But obviously, the guy Darius Miller was the one that was the brainchild behind that concept, and he knew that I wanted to get into PR because I started talking about it, and he was like, "Well, you come on, you could be the publicist for the event." I said, "Sure." Did not know what I was doing.
Hmm.
But I started to research again fashion, looking at entertainment, music, just kind of exploring, looking at everything, knowing that the music was burgeoning, well, actually just at its not even at its peak, but it was like the thing. Atlanta was the market.
Yeah.
So knowing that I could not produce fashion just was not there at the time, I would just do smaller events, right, for myself. Working with Moda 404, working with all these different boutiques to produce fashion shows, and really, honestly, coining it as my own fashion week.
Hmm.
Eventually, what happened in 2013, I came across a young lady that was actually one of the producers and founders for Charleston Fashion Week.
Okay.
And we were on the board together, Fashion Group International. That's how we connected. She told me her history, and obviously everybody knew back then that Charleston Fashion Week was the show for the South. And I was like, well, I've been doing these events since 2006, but I haven't really brought it together to make it where it has a lot of impact. How can we do that here? And that's when we decided to put everything under Rag Trade Atlanta and then start producing the shows in a more organized way that resonated with or resembled New York Fashion Week.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you kind of have this vision of Atlanta kind of becoming the fifth fashion capital of the world,
Yeah.
right? Why do you think that's important for, a city like Atlanta, especially knowing that, as we always say, Atlanta influences everything, but like, why is it important that Atlanta becomes the fifth fashion capital of the world?
I just think we've done amazing at every creative discipline that is out there at this time. Think about it. Nobody would have ever thought that music would have taken a stronghold on this market like it did.
Hmm.
Nobody would have never thought that film and television would have taken a stronghold like it did. So, and knowing that and identifying that we have so many great creatives in that space, we also have them in fashion and we have them in art. And technically, we are growing into that space. I think I mentioned to you before, the first week in October is shaping up to be quote unquote Atlanta Design Week
Hmm.
because you have Atlanta Fashion Week, you have Atlanta Art Fair, you have Atlanta Art Week, you have Elevate, which is with the city of
Yeah.
Atlanta, and then you also have what? Face, which is Fashion, Art, Culture, and Education, which is part of Fulton County, led by David Manuel. But then even more so that I recently learned, we also have Atlanta Design Festival that's
Mhm.
taking place the last week of September, going into the first week in October. Atlanta is ready for that discipline. It's time. Fashion and art drives those other two disciplines and has for a very long time. We have so many different creatives that are here in this market that are making an impact, but honestly are not getting the recognition. But it's just time for a platform to provide that recognition for them.
Yeah, what do you think makes, Atlanta's, approach to fashion so special? Because again, for a long time, if you wanted to do something in fashion, it
Mhm.
was like you got to go to New York or you got to go like to some of these other areas. If you want to do something in tech, you had to go to San Francisco, right? If you
Mhm.
want to do something in finance, you had to go. But like now, all these things are possible here. Like, what do you think is so special about Atlanta's fashion scene?
You know what? I don't know if it's anything that's special. I think it's the belief. Atlanta has always been like a springboard to those other markets and
Hmm.
has been for a very long time. So when you think about like our designers that we have here or just the entrepreneurs that we have here, right? We believe in ourselves and we obviously Atlanta is a test market for, to try things out, but once we accomplish those, we do so great at them. And I do believe that our designers and our visual artists in these particular industries have chosen to choose Atlanta as their home. And the way that we're leading in regards to our design, like I give all the glory and all the glory to New York, right? Just like how Little Yachty said, yes, they led in so many different ways. However, I do feel like the way that Atlanta has moved over the last maybe 10, 15 years, we are continuously setting trends and continue to do that and being recognized for that now with fashion and visual arts.
Okay. What all is included in Atlanta Fashion Week? You all do these events, there's
Mhm.
like multiple moments. Like
Mhm.
what all is included in Atlanta Fashion Week?
So we approach our show as a festival, right? Because we want all of our guests that come out to our event to have a great time outside of just the runway shows. So I'm going to talk about it from two different perspectives. From the consumer perspective, you're going to get runway shows. You're going to get to meet new designers in pop up situations or pop up experiences. You're going to get to attend different parties that are curated specifically for Atlanta Fashion Week. You're going to get a chance to also do experience the nightlife with Atlanta Fashion Week. Now, from a designer perspective, what makes us different is that we do tend to target more direct to consumer designers, right? We also allow those designers to be able to participate in a fashion show that is highly produced, very similar or even better than New York. But then you also get a chance to sell and make money.
Hmm.
And so we incorporate that business aspect in it because we understand for our designers that you want to, that it's more than just showing. You need to be able to touch that consumer, build a relation with that consumer, and also grow your brand and even scale for that weekend. And so we've been doing that. That's always been like the motto for our show, for our participating designers since we started. In regards to the actual week, though, if I could touch on that, October 2nd is our opening night party, and we're going to be honoring the founders of FUBU.
Okay.
October 3rd and 4th are the runway shows. We have shows that are happening from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. We just announced our 2 featured designers that are going to close out each day. On Thursday, October 3rd, Coogee is coming from New York and Australia to showcase their latest collection. And then on Friday, October 4th, FUBU is relaunching stateside. A lot of
Oh,
people think that FUBU had left and they were no longer around, but in reality, they just switched their direction and went overseas and penetrated that market. But the cool thing about it, the Gen Z audience, they are so into these 90s brands, these 90s and 2000 brands. All of them are coming back from Averex. Last night at the Trap, I think it was the Trap Museum's event with Lotto,
yeah.
she literally had on a Pele Pele jacket.
Hmm.
And then obviously the Coogies, the many calls that I got yesterday just from that announcement. I cannot wait to wear my Coogee sweater. They was like, I got to go buy a new Coogee sweater. My boyfriend got an original piece from Australia from Coogee. He's going to wear that to the show. Like the excitement around these brands is what's making me happy and fueling my energy for it because I cannot wait to see these brands have their glory again. They did so much for our culture. They did so much for our community. And to see that they could possibly come back in a major way and also be launched here in Atlanta and get that glory here in Atlanta just is the cherry on top.
Dog, I gotta bust out my old Averex jacket. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
got one somewhere up in a closet. I'm gonna need to get that thing ready for Atlanta Fashion Week. And
absolutely.
I think it's amazing too, to your point, like a lot of these brands are kind of starting to come full circle.
Yeah.
You know, I've kind of noticed that too in culture that you're starting to see more people kind of, bring back that 90s vibe,
Hmm.
with some of the looks, the clothes. I saw something the other day online where people were talking about the old Charlotte Hornets starter jacket. And it
Yeah.
was like, if you had to have one of these things growing up because it was just one of those symbols. Like people had never seen those kind of colors come together before.
Yep.
And like everybody kind of wanted to have one. What's your like favorite, most, favorite kind of most nostalgic, brand? I know you talked about Coogee and liking to see that, but
Yeah.
what's kind of that favorite, brand for you from back in the day that you want to see come back?
Ooh, for me, there's several, but I always love sneakers. So I would do the Juicy Couture
Okay.
sweatsuit. That was my thing. I love the Juicy Couture sweatsuit. So I would have to go to that. The velour
Mm-hmm.
sweatsuit. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I had me a
They
Sean
always look
John
good on
balloon.
women, and they always look good on women.
Oh yeah, they always look good. There was a shout out to Juicy Couture. Y'all were doing a lot for the culture back in the day. Now, again, you've taken Atlanta Fashion Week over these last 10 plus years that you've been doing it, and it's really kind of grown into something. It started, as one thing, now it draws, thousands of people and
Hmm.
artists and creators and fashion designers and the public. Like, what were some of the things you did that kind of, made the biggest difference? I think a lot of times when you're doing something, you can't always connect the dots looking forward, but you can always kind of connect the dots when you look backwards.
Right.
And when you think about it, like a lot of times business is kind of a series of, as I say, like, hills and plateaus, right?
Hmm.
Like it's kind of slow sometimes and things are just working, you're grinding. Then you have kind of these inflection points. What were some of those inflection points for you that kind of, helped Atlanta Fashion Week break through? Was it a certain designer getting involved or was it a certain person that showed up at a show? Like when you kind of look back at it?
When I look back at it, I would have to say that I do contribute it to my team and then also to, I'm a publicist, right? So I built many, 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 many relationships over the course of the years in all types of industries. So being consistent with the production, even though I have to say it is sometimes very challenging. I'm an entrepreneur trying to run a PR marketing agency, but then also trying to build this brand that I vision to be a multi-million dollar brand.
Mhm.
That will be a brand that would be a legacy brand that will outlive me, right? And so it gets challenging trying to figure out, like, okay, where do I spend the most time at, right? But essentially, when we when we did one of our shows at the W Hotel, and that was actually probably 2013. The way that Barter College at that time came around,
Yeah.
and those students showed, and it was a sold out show. And then our second show happened, and it was independent designers that were part of that show. And then that show sold out. And then to receive and at that time, knowing that we've been working at this for a very long time, but then receiving like a proclamation from the city of Atlanta at that time.
Mhm.
Actually, it was the Phoenix Award from the city of Atlanta from Mayor Kasim Reed. But it was presented by Ebony. Um, Williams, I think that's her last name, Ebony, that works for the city of Atlanta in special events. She
Mhm.
brought that and presented that to her, and I was like, okay, so now people are really beginning to recognize the work that we put behind building up this brand and what we're trying to do. And that's when I saw the turning point, because every year after that, it started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Of course, we had celebrities participate, but when I got Microsoft in 2022 to come on as a brand partner, I knew that we were on to something at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people, people think that sponsors and partners are easy, but it's hard work getting those folks involved.
It is.
How do you get partners and sponsors involved with Atlanta Fashion Week? And then also, just how are some of the ways that Atlanta Fashion Week like actually, makes money to help cover some of these things? Like, is it just purely through partnerships and sponsorships? Are you selling tickets? Like,
Yeah. So we have to sell tickets, because we don't charge. If you show in New York,
hmm
at minimum, you're going to spend 20,000.
okay,
$20,000 to produce your show. And that's just you producing your show. That does not include any opportunities to sell immediately after. I mean, you can go to the different trade shows like Coterie Magic or whatever, but that's just for you to do your show. Um, for us, what was the first question? I'm sorry.
well, so how do you all bring those kind of partners
Oh, the brand.
involved? Yeah.
So obviously we target.
hmm
Obviously we really do look at the different brands that we want to go after and see what they want to focus on. So obviously I may reach out to them and I may say, hey, what is it that you're currently looking at or looking to accomplish in 2024, 2025? And then I send them like a quick event overview of the things that we accomplished the year before and maybe a couple of years prior to that. Um, a lot of times we have had success getting responses back. Now I have to say, again, because I work in PR marketing, I have relationships.
Right.
And I also have work, they know my work from experiential marketing. So I send that information to them, I get a response back, then we jump on a call. Every conversation I have does not be successful. It's just not. It's one particular brand that I've been trying to go after for many, many years, and I still have not got them on board. Hopefully, this time around, they
hmm
come around. I'm still waiting. But for the most part, letting, understanding their target audience, who they're going after, um, the type of product and program that they're trying to promote for that particular year, and then finding ways creatively to integrate the two. And that's where my experience with experiential marketing has totally helped me out a whole lot.
What's hold on, I lost my train of thought on the question, but that's fine because we're a podcast. We can keep it moving. Um, so okay, so you go out here, you get these brands involved. What's a brand that you really want to work with, or you think would be a perfect fit for Atlanta Fashion Week?
I would tell you, I don't, okay, it would be Atlanta Fashion Week, but it will also be for the entire year of
Okay,
everything that we're doing. I would say about 2 years ago, we actually did outreach to LVMH for
okay,
a particular program. They are a very strong company, obviously. Um, the majority, LVMH itself, the other brands, the profit coming from LVMH is coming from the actual LVMH is probably 25%. So the other brands are actually carrying that brand,
Hmm.
right? So they are extremely strong and stable, and um, they do support independent brands. Obviously, they have in the past. So I reached out to them about possibly doing a program with them that I thought that would be amazing for Atlanta. Unfortunately, it did not come to us. It ended up going somewhere else, um, not to be named. And I'm not upset about it, because it just probably wasn't time.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm keeping that conversation open and keeping that relationship there. But it was a program that I built up that obviously was a good program because guess what? They end up using the program somewhere else. So I know what I was building out made sense. But if I could bring LVMH here to see the local brands that we have here, you have brands like Cease and Assist. That brand is amazing. Fred Foster has worked in this industry for so long. He has had major placements and on many different celebrities, right? And been on big main stages where his product was seen. And it's just time. It's
Hmm.
time for him to have that opportunity and that shot. Even think about Melrose High and DMAP. He's doing amazingly well right now with his Crown of Cairo hats.
Hmm.
I love him doing his thing. But then we also have different designers like Kenya Freeman that owns Sylvia Molly. Now she has an amazing partnership with Shein, where she designs her collection and then Shein produces the product for them and sells it on their platform. That's huge. It is fast fashion, but it's huge. So just kind of identifying, giving those different designers that opportunity where they can be invested by one of those big brands like LVMH that has all the resources that will help them catapult to the next level. That's what I would love to see.
Okay.
And so it'll be bigger than just Atlanta Fashion Week. It's really for the designer and
Right.
seeing that designer really scale up their business at the level that they can.
For people that are just trying to get started in like design and fashion,
Mm-hmm.
how do you go from like how would you recommend somebody kind of goes from 0 to 1? They're starting an idea, they're doing shirts or they want to do something special. Like how do you kind of start to break through nowadays? I mean, obviously you can push stuff on social media and you can
Mm-hmm.
try to get, placements. I get stuff in all the time in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what advice would you kind of give to that aspiring designer? Just like I want to get my stuff out there and kind of break through.
I would say master your craft. There are a lot of different designers that are out there that create garments that are not necessarily ready for market.
Okay.
I,
Now what does that mean? What does that not ready for
it could
market
be
mean?
just the craftsmanship behind the brand, the way that they sew the garment together, the way the type of material or fabric that they're choosing to use. There's many different reasons that they're just not ready to go to market yet, right? I would master your craft. A lot of designers in from France, from Italy, it takes years for them to master before they even go to market.
Hmm.
And I think that we have to take that opportunity to do that here. I think a lot of times what end up happening, the we're so quick to try to jump on a trend, right? So we jump on that trend, create like a sweatshirt or whatever, and think that we created a brand, but then you still don't have the back of your house together. It's a lot of money to start a fashion brand. It's not something that you could just do initially, right? It takes having the manufacturing together, making sure that you're on the fashion calendar and understanding that when their buyers are looking to purchase product, having money. That money is a big part of that because a lot of times, especially if you're trying to go into wholesale, you're not gonna be able, you got to be able to produce. You may not get paid for 60 days. And then based on the amount of product that's sold within a time frame, they may return it. You
Oh,
got
that's
to be
possible. They can do that?
absolutely in the contracts.
Oh.
You got to be prepared for all that. It's called the sell through rate.
Mm-hmm.
What is the sell through rate between August 1st to August 15th?
So if you as a designer get your stuff placed in a store, you're promoting it, they put it up on the shelves. If a certain percentage of it is not selling within that whatever time frame, you telling me they can literally send it back to you, and
There's
now
a
you all of a sudden now you got all that merchandise
it's
coming
a
back to you.
possibility they can send it back to you.
Oh, yeah, you
Yeah.
better master that craft.
And yeah, you got to master that craft.
What are now when again you talk about how Atlanta Fashion Week kind of helps these designers and puts them out there, knowing they kind of go through all this stuff. What are some of the benefits of the designers and the people that get involved in Atlanta Fashion Week? Like, how does it help them take their brands to the next level?
Well, the great thing that has happened, and it's so funny because I was looking back at old photos, realizing that we've been building a relationship with Bloomingdale's for years,
Hmm.
and understanding the ethos and the DNA of Bloomingdale's, they have always supported new brands at one step or another. Right? Donna Karen is a example of that. Diane von Furstenberg is an example of that, and so the fact that with Atlanta Fashion Week, there's a possible opportunity for wholesale with Bloomingdale's. And I say possible, but you get a chance to start building that relationship. We've created this pipeline that when you show at Atlanta, the next step is now you sell at Bloomingdale's for
Okay.
a pop up experience. Some of those pop up experiences can be just for 2 days if it's happening during Atlanta Fashion Week. Some of them can be 30 days. Eventually, if they are 30 days, that means you've obtained a SKU number from Bloomingdale's,
Okay.
meaning that you're in their system. And that allows you to what? Go around and do different trunk shows at any one of the properties that they have throughout the United States. And then based on your numbers and how you're performing, that's when there's an opportunity for your brand to become a purchase order or a wholesale account. We've had a couple of successes with that. One being in particular, a young lady by the name of Alexandria. Her brand F&W Style took that same path, and now she is a wholesale account and also sold on their .com.
Okay.
Yeah, and doing extremely well. And she was also Bloomingdale's just opened up an outlet store about yesterday actually, and she's in there as well.
How do some of these partnerships, like with Bloomingdale's, and I think you do some stuff with Magic in Vegas,
Hmm.
like how do all these different partnerships help you scale Atlanta Fashion Week, not just locally but also globally and nationally, right? So that people understand
Hmm.
there's a lot of amazing stuff going on down here in Atlanta.
Well, the goal, like I mentioned to you before, has always been about the actual designer.
Hmm.
We want to see our designers succeed, and understanding that we are in the South. Um, and as well as I know, that sometimes Atlanta and all the creatives that come out of Atlanta are considered what, like the stepchild.
They do us wrong
They
sometimes.
do us wrong sometimes, and it's okay, but we continue, to push forward and prove how worthy and how successful we are and how creative we are, right? So just figuring out what programming is going to benefit that designer, and then making sure that we protect that designer when we execute them through that program, because
Hmm.
I don't want to put them in a situation where they're being set up to fail. I don't want to see that. I truly want to see them succeed, and I feel like Atlanta have enough talent. Atlanta market in general, not just the designers that are here, just any independent brand that wants to grow and succeed definitely needs to look at this market 100% and the platform that we're producing for our independent brands.
Yeah, man. Oh, go ahead.
But I will say it's exciting to see also too on twofold that you have major brands that have accumulated over millions and millions of dollars saying, you know what, I think we want to come to Atlanta, which that is not a bad thing, because what that's going to do is bring more attention to what all our different designers that are based here in this market as well, and provide additional opportunities.
Okay. No, I see it. I see it. It's all coming together.
Mhm.
Let me ask you, Andrew, before we get out of here. So, what is a piece of advice or a mantra that you kind of go by that's kind of helped guide you over this journey?
You know what? I choose to be positive all the time.
Okay.
I try not to look at the negative side of things at all. If you tell me that this person can't do this, I'll show you someone that can. And I really truly believe that has positioned me to be where I am today. Honestly, I don't believe in the negativity, especially when it comes to our community and our culture. We hear so much. With me working in press, I have a very critical eye when I'm looking at the different stories that come out and how they're ran. So, and it sometimes, it's very challenging to watch because I know that, yeah, I see what you're saying here, but I know this group of people over here that are doing what you're saying that they can't do. So I just choose to see the positive side of things. And when I do that, guess what? Things just seem to fall in place.
Yeah, when you're doing the right thing happens.
Yeah.
That's
And yeah, it's hard. Listen, it's hard. Trying to build up something like an Atlanta Fashion Week and a platform like that is not an easy feat.
mhm.
But I think God put this in my spirit, in my DNA to do this. And I'm excited to do it. And I'm excited to take, I'm taking it by the rein and I'm just going to build it up as much as I can. I may be going slower than a lot of people would want me to go, but I'm going at the pace that I know that I can go. And I'm going to be very specific about the decisions that I make to ensure that one, it benefits the designers and that this becomes a legacy.
Yeah, there's nothing that exists that didn't start as an idea or a
Mm.
thought first. The most beautiful thing about the human mind is the ability to kind of manifest
Yeah.
things into thoughts and make them into physical reality. And when you look around, literally every single thing that you look at is something that started with a thought. And Atlanta Fashion Week, it started with a thought, and now it's evolving and bringing in other people that feel the same way. And so,
Yeah.
congratulations on all that and amazing work. How can people find out about more about Atlanta Fashion Week and connect with it and get involved?
Sure. You can visit www.atlantafashionweek.co and then also follow us on Instagram at ATLFW, Facebook at ATLFW, and Twitter at ATFW, well, X, I'm sorry, at ATFW_week.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Angela. This has been amazing. Congratulations
Thank
on Atlanta
you.
Fashion Week. We can't wait to see it. Y'all go out and support. And that's the pod.
Awesome. Yay.